Hey there. Happy Wednesday. Today I thought we'd chat a little bit about how to light a moonlight exterior scene. Being totally honest, moonlight exteriors scare the shit out of me, so I've never really attempted doing one because it's a hard thing, you know? Like, you're trying to make it feel dark and only lit by the moon, because when you're outside at night and you're in like a forest or a backyard and it's just lit by the moon, like, you can't really see too much. But at the same time, when you're lighting it for a camera, you obviously need to give it enough light that the sensor is able to pick up what you're doing and you're giving it. So it's this weird balance of it needing to be dark, but also needing to be bright and also have contrast. And so it's hard and it's kind of a nightmare, and it's been something that I've really avoided doing. But I decided this week to, you know, kind of bite the bullet and just figure out how to do it. So that's what I did, and this is a little scene that we got from it. And so without further ado, let's roll that, and then I'll go about telling you how we did it.
Do you think the moon keeps secrets? Like, it just remembers all the dumb shit you've done?
This is? How the fuck are you not on a watch list?
So that's what we got. I'm overall pretty happy with it. I'd say it's aggressively average. So starting off with the wide, the first light that we put up was kind of the base ambience, because obviously we couldn't see like anything starting out, so we just needed to get some sort of base level up. So for that light, what we used was a Forza 500B, probably about 35-40 feet away from our background, and we just put the reflector dish on that, stuck it up as high as we could on a C-stand, tilted it down just slightly, set it to 6500 Kelvin at about 5 to 7%, I think it was, and then just kind of let that rake across the background, giving some nice texture across the shed, and just giving us a base level of ambience. From there, we set up our key light, which for this we used a 8x8 of full grid, probably about, again, 10-12 feet away from the talent. Because we had two talent and we wanted an even level of light on both of them, we needed to back up the 8x, so that way one person wasn't getting more heat than the other. There's math that explains why that works. I don't know it, but I just know that if you're trying to light two people and you want them to be the same level of exposure, back up your key light a little bit further and it will even out the amount of exposure that's hitting both of them. I don't know why, but it works. Math. Anyway, so we did that, and then behind it we had a Nova P300C at 6500 Kelvin at about 60%, I believe. Probably, again, about 6-7 feet behind that 8x, just far enough back so it's filling the entire 8x. And then we use the barn doors to kind of close off the spill of it from hitting our background and kind of messing up our level of ambience back there. And for that key light, we had that at about a 45-degree angle from our talent. From there, this was like kind of setting the base. So we had kind of our talent keyed, we had our background at least exposed. This is when we kind of wanted to start giving a little bit of salt and pepper, because with night scenes specifically, if you just give base level exposure, it just feels very kind of gray, murky. So the first thing we set up to kind of address this was a Forza 300B back behind the trees on the left here. And we just let that kind of rake through the trees to kind of give us some nice pops of highlight under the tree branches, and then on the side of the shed, because when it was going through the tree, it gave that nice like pattern of shadow and highlight, and that looked really nice and kind of helped our darks to feel dark, because now we had a point of highlight to kind of reference from. From there, the next thing that we added was a 4-foot tube light bouncing into the ceiling of the shed at like a kind of 3200 Kelvin temperature, just like warm kind of house light bulb feel, just to give us some color contrast as well. So you're kind of, you know, getting more different types of contrast. So you're getting just your normal kind of light and dark contrast, but now you're also getting some color contrast between warm and cool, and just overall giving the scene a more three-dimensional feel. And then on the outside of the shed, we put an MC there, also at 3200 Kelvin, kind of just acting like a in-frame practical, giving us another pop of highlight and a little bit more color contrast. Then after that, pretty much I was about 90% happy with it, but there was just still something missing, and we realized that they didn't have a hair light. So we set up a 2x4 foam board out on a boom arm, just like kind of above our talent's head, like angled down like this almost, and then shot a 200D with a spotlight mount into it, and that kind of bounced back and gave them a nice hair light and a little scratch on the side of the face, because their shadow side was just falling a little bit too dark, their hair was falling a little bit too dark, and so this kind of helps kind of etch them out from the background. At this point, we could have just left it here and it looked pretty nice, but we just want to polish up a little bit more. So one of the things we've realized is that when I was kind of turning into him, I was losing my eye light from our key light. So to combat that, we put up a little 2-foot tube and then put some black wrap on the sides of it so that it wasn't hitting him, but just giving me a little eye light. So that way when I turn on my head, I would get a little glimmer in my eye from that little tube light. And we had that set to like 2%, also at 6500 Kelvin. It was literally just giving an eye light. And then the final thing we did was we just added a bottomer to that 8x8 with using a black tablecloth, just to cut off the light from our shirts a little bit, because our shirts just kind of felt weirdly hot. So after we did that, that was it for the wide, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. For the close-up, we really didn't change much, because at this point it was like 1:30 in the morning, and honestly, we wanted to go to bed, man. We were tired. We shot this about 70 millimeters at a 5.6, and so Before, we're shooting a little bit more open, and so the only thing I really adjusted between the two shots was just the output of all the lights, just to match it to the previous wide shot. And the reason I did that is because recently on close-ups, I've really enjoyed kind of seeing a deeper focus on the face. Like, I want to see more of the face in focus. So obviously, you know, stopping down more and getting to a 5.6 or an 8, you're going to be able to, when you're really close in on a longer lens, kind of have more of that face in focus. And you know, close-ups are supposed to be kind of like more intimate shots. They're important moments. And so for me, I think it's a nice way to kind of show that by having more of the face be in focus than maybe your other wider shots that you're having. And then this was the final result from the close-up, and I'm overall pretty happy with it. So now, what would I have done differently? There's not a ton that I would do differently, but there's a couple things that I think would add probably another 10 to 15% of quality. The first and most important thing is I would have added more points of highlight. So I really liked what we did with the side of the shed and kind of popping through the trees a little bit, but I really want to add way more of that. The reason we kind of didn't do that is because we were running low on C-stands and we needed to get other things like the hair light and the little eye light, so we kind of just had to live with it. But if this was a bigger set, I would have put more bigger lights kind of further behind those trees just to kind of let them rake through and get a lot of those like little pops of highlights through the trees. And then that big kind of black area over on the right side of frame, I would have done the same thing kind of through a tree to kind of get some patter on there like we have on the other side of the shed. And I think that would have added a ton to the scene. And then the other thing I would have done for the wide is I would have probably put either a 2-stop net or a little solid, just kind of blocking the light a little bit more off of my face on the shadow side, just because I felt like it wasn't matching Kyle's as well as it could have. And it just kind of felt a little murky there. So I would have wanted to cut that down a little bit. And I did a little bit in post, but it still doesn't look as good as it would have done if we had done it on set. So, you know, if I had another stand and a little black flag, I would have just popped that up there and kind of knocked down the level on my shadow side a little bit. And then for the close-up, pretty much the only thing I would have changed is just kind of moving that 8x in closer, just so, you know, it would have wrapped around his face a little bit more and kind of not fallen off into darkness as quickly as it was. And then I probably would have also played around with the hair light positioning a little bit more just to kind of edge him out a little bit better. Like the binoculars are edged out wonderfully. Like I really like how they look, but I wish I just had a little bit more edge on kind of the other side of him so it wasn't kind of, again, falling into this like pool of darkness on that side. But again, overall, very happy with how both these shots turned out. And for never doing like a moonlit scene before, I'm pretty happy with how this looks. And I'm sure, you know, 6 months from now I'll look back and be like, oh God, that was not good. But for the first time doing it, I'm very satisfied with how this went. This was a super fun lighting exercise. You know, it made me much more confident in the fact that I think I could light a nighttime moonlit exterior, which before doing this, I would be so nervous if I was asked to do this. So it really just helped me confidence-wise that if this was asked of me, I could do it and I could make it look good enough that a client would be happy and that I would be happy, which is always the goal. So, you know, I really recommend going out and trying to light the scenarios that maybe scare you a little bit or you haven't ever tried, because it's going to make you a better, more confident DP. Hopefully this was helpful to you. If not, sorry as always. And let me know if you like this kind of learn with me breakdown where I kind of just do something I haven't done before and then tell you how I did it and then kind of what I would do differently the next time and what I learned from it. So I'd be interested to hear kind of your thoughts, or if you just want me to tell you things that I already know how to do decently well. But anyways, I'll see you next week. Bye.